Dude, everyone keeps talking about the billion-dollar rug pull. It's really funny because what are you going to do about it? You think the SEC under the Trump command is going to actually investigate this matter and punish those who very clearly engaged in insider trading?
Now, just a few minutes before we came on air, a sudden social media post from Donald Trump turned all his tariff plans upside down again. Based on the lack of respect China has shown to the world markets, he declared, "I am hereby raising the tariff charge by the United States of America to 125%. As for the countries which he said had not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape or form, I've authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%. It took several questions to the White House press secretary to establish that this was a universal flat rate and not on top of the existing 10% already imposed. That's all perfectly clear then, is it? Well, in our first report tonight, here's our Washington correspondent, Siobhan Kennedy.
I know what the hell I'm doing. I know what I'm doing, and you know what I'm doing too.
Last night, President Trump claimed he knew what he was doing as he unleashed a barrage of reciprocal tariffs on dozens of countries around the world.
Thank you. The president has just announced a 90-day pause.
But in the last hour, yet more chaos, as the president abruptly announced on social media a 90-day pause. The stock market surged as investors took heart and screens quickly turned green. But exempt from the tariff pause was China, on which Trump hiked levies for the second time in 24 hours, this time to 125%. Beijing had already retaliated with an increased 84% levy on US goods, its finance minister earlier insisting Beijing would not back down. We will continue to take resolute and strong measures to safeguard our legitimate rights and interests, he said. There was also retaliation from Europe that targeted iconic products like Harley-Davidson motorbikes with a new 25% duty that will also hit American chickens, soybeans and ice cream. The incoming German Chancellor was equally resolute. We do not yet know what direction the international situation will head, he said, but that's why our message today is all the more clear. We want to and we will help shape the shift in the world for Germany. That doesn't sound like countries cozying up to Donald Trump, as he claimed last night.
I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir.
With a global trade war underway, Trump's Treasury Secretary spoke at a bankers' conference this morning, perhaps to try and calm jittery nerves, but he didn't sound particularly convinced himself.
I can tell you that there is a little uncertainty, but that in general,
just a little bit,
the companies that I've spoken to, the people who have come, the CEOs who have come into Treasury, tell me that the economy is very solid. We got some very good jobs numbers last Friday. So, I think that we are in pretty good shape.
This will be the largest tax increase for the American people.
But that wasn't the message in Congress today, during a second grilling of Trump's trade official.
The numbers speak for themselves. $3,800 higher prices for American consumers, 900 laid off U.S. auto workers, trillions in lost retirement savings, which would be the biggest tax increase in our history.
Perhaps acknowledging that pain, at least the chaos his policies are causing in global markets, Donald Trump has now called a pause, a welcome reprieve from the turmoil he's created.
Siobhan Kennedy, well, was today's climb down the result of market movements overnight as confidence in the US economy declined and investors rushed to offload government debt? With me now is our economics correspondent, Helia Ebrahimi. So let's start with UK debt. What had been happening?
Well, look, the whole thing is quite complicated because we've seen in the last half an hour that US stock markets, as Siobhan was saying, have all bounced higher. You know, you've got the Dow Jones. I'm going to start there. I'm going to go for the good news first and then get to the bad news, Krish. Dow Jones up 6%. NASDAQ, that's where all the US big tech companies are. They've shot up even higher, up 9%. All those hard-hit American companies like Nike, Apple, you know, Delta Airlines, which had been the main casualties of this tariff war, are seeing double-digit share growth at the moment. And the conclusion of this turmoil is that I think this is kind of, you know, it's that famous saying from Bill Clinton's advisor that if the reincarnation exists, I want to come back as the bond market because that's what really has power. And I'm going to show you up until an hour ago, there was a fear that not just prices were nosediving in shares, but also credit. This is the US Treasury market, 30-year debt. That should be the safest of safe places to be. And you can see just as tariffs begin, that's the white line, you see it shoot up to 5%. Now, that is really bad news for the administration and traders and market analysts all talking about what's the circuit breaker, what's going to stop this.
And that was the opposite of what they intended.
That's the opposite. And it's very strange as well to see bonds go up, government debt go up. You know, this means there is a loss of confidence in not just shares, but actually the USA. And you were asking a moment ago about what does this mean for UK debt? Well, we're going to bring up another chart for you because, of course, this spreads not just across the US and to other corporate bonds, but also to the UK. You can see the UK debt price, which was already quite spicy, Krish, has gone up to 5.64%. And that is all because people are losing confidence.
Is that trust territory?
Well, the similarities with trust, that is away from trust. You know, we're still away from trust in terms of the change in gilt yield. So that's the highest level.
I do love that Liz Truss was such a spectacular failure that they literally invoke her name to basically explain a phenomena of a political figure crashing and burning in spectacular fashion in an incredibly short period of time. Like she has become the benchmark for political failure.
Since 1998, but it's not the biggest move which we saw with Truss. The similarities with Truss, Krish, is that we've seen some chaos in the market. You know, prices going up, going down, crashing all about and moving critically to the credit market. And you've got big leveraged positions, which means that prices are moving very quickly, very violently. Things like oil going down, things like the dollar going down, things like US Treasuries going down. When that happens, Krish, policymakers worry not just about prices, not just about recession, but does the whole market system break somewhere? And it is that kind of question about, is there enough liquidity? Is something going to break along the way that I think has stayed his hand?
And this is not over, is it?
Well, no, it's definitely not over. It's a reprieve. As Siobhan was saying, it's staying his hand for 90 days. But remember, China, which is the world's second biggest economy, still has tariffs. Not only still has tariffs, but he's increased the tariffs. Trump's increased the tariffs to 125%. Now, that is still going to have ramifications. And even when you look at the rest of the world, he's only given a 90-day pause. So companies, markets, fund managers, policymakers, they're still not clear where the policy is going to land. And that is going to lead to a whole bunch of volatility. If we have a look at my last graphic that I'm going to show you, this is the VIX. People call it the fear index. And you can see how it shot up on tariff day. That means people don't really know what's going to happen. And when people don't know, then things become a lot riskier. And that's when policymakers...
Because it's no longer clear what the purpose of his tariffs are now, is it?
Yeah.
It might not be about rebalancing the world economy after all.
Yeah, is it a negotiating tool, or, you know, is he just trying to bully everybody?
Thanks, Helia. Matt? Well, I think we should be able to speak to Siobhan Kenny now. Siobhan, tell us what the latest, the very latest is that you've heard from the White House.
Well, Matt, just first of all, what a roller coaster of a day, of a week this has been, having insisted pretty much on a daily basis that he was not for budging, he would not change his policy. That is exactly what Donald Trump has abruptly and suddenly done today with this pause that he's put in place. He said that he's done it because 75 countries, he said on his Truth Social platform, have called representatives of the United States, his Department of Commerce and others, and begged, as he would see it, to make a deal. Of course, the one country that has not done that is China, and he is claiming today that it was China's lack of respect that it has shown to the world markets that has made him make this pause. Of course, there's been chaos in the world markets. He seems to be blaming China for that, and he's raised the levy instead on China to 125%. That was on his Truth Social platform. In the last few moments, we have heard from the White House. His press secretary has come out onto the lawn there with his Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. Now, Caroline Levitt has said many of you in the media clearly missed the art of the deal. She said the entire world is calling.
So stupid. We are so dumb.
The United States, not China, because they need our markets. She spoke alongside, as I said there, the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. Let's hear what he had to say now.
China is the most imbalanced economy in the history of the modern world, and they are the biggest source of the U.S. trade problems. And indeed, they are problems for the rest of the world, because what we've seen is that as the U.S. announced a tariff wall last week, many of those goods have already started flooding into Europe.
So as you see it now, this trade war is China versus the rest of the world?
Well, I'm not calling it a trade war, but I'm saying that China has escalated, and President Trump responded very courageously to that, and we are going to work on a solution with our trading partners.
If I could just, excuse me.
Well, the markets, we've seen them turn green. There is some relief here. But remember, this is only a 90-day pause to give some time for those negotiations and for some deals to perhaps kick in. Doesn't mean they necessarily will. And remember, he is still implementing a 10% tariff. So chaos will still ensue, I think, and prices still stand to go up. So this is a temporary reprieve, but I don't think everybody here, certainly ordinary Americans, will not be breathing a sigh of relief for too long.
Siobhan, thanks very much indeed. Well, Wendy Cutler is a former diplomat who spent years negotiating trade agreements between the US and countries across Asia. She's now at the Asia Society Policy Institute in Washington, D.C. and joins me here on the roof. It's good to see you on such an extraordinary day. You must be feeling a bit dizzy, rather like us. Did Donald Trump blink?
Clearly, I think the pause shows that the administration was getting a bit nervous about.
Dude, everyone keeps talking about the $1 billion rug pull, and it's really funny because guess what? What are you going to do about it? You think the SEC under the Trump command is going to actually investigate this matter and find wrongdoing and punish those who very clearly engaged in insider trading? Like, Donald Trump did this for the crypto markets, and now he's doing it for the market. It's untouchable. Billionaires have never had it as good as they do in this very moment. This is part of the reason why there is no business plot happening against Donald Trump. That's it. What is this? The Trump administration is reportedly planning to kill a $400 million grant from the Biden admin that would boost steel manufacturing in America's Rust Belt, including J.D. Vance's hometown of Middleton, Ohio. Nice. Why? I don't know. TLDR, Washington correspondent for CNBC, the new U.S. tariff rate against our two largest trading partners is either 10%, 25%, or 35%. And so far, no one I've reached out to at the White House has been able to tell me which. Thank you for the pause, Donald. Okay, dude. Don't send me autism capital or whatever.
Series of executive.
He's doing big money moves, dude. He's doing things that you can't even understand.
The economic fallout of these tariffs. So this 90-day pause while applying to most countries, but not China, is a welcome development.
So is it people like Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, who's a very rich man in his own right and credited for having a big financial brain, and the other titans of Wall Street who rang up Donald Trump over recent days and says, lay off, you got to be kidding?
Well, I'm sure they played a role, but one thing we've learned about...
Yeah, Jamie Dimon made the boss call, and Trump was like, sorry, Mr. Dimon, I apologize, I'll fix it. When you ruin global trade because you're bored, but then Jamie Dimon makes a boss call and you go, all right, my bad, bro, shit.
This president, he has his own mind and makes his own decisions based on his own considerations.
Now, what about China? I mean, 125% tariff on China, that's unprecedented, isn't it?
It's unprecedented, and frankly, it ends trade between the two countries. Right. China's already responded with higher tariffs, and I think...
this, by the way, is precisely why I said, like, 104%, 124% doesn't matter. It's effectively a trade embargo.
That what's now going to happen is both sides have exhausted their tariff application, so now they may look elsewhere to other tools and other weapons they can use against each other, and that concerns me.
And who is this more damaging for, China or the U.S.?
I think it depends who you ask.
But what do you think, as someone who's dealt with both sides?
I think both sides are going to feel pain from this. But given China's relatively weak economy, I think the pain will be greater on them. But I also think that the Chinese are in it for the long term. I think that they can endure, and Xi Jinping will do what he needs to do to help them weather through this storm.
They have a higher pain threshold than American society, presumably.
Yes, yeah.
And I mean, to what extent is this about politics and not really about trade?
Look, it's hard to distinguish both of them. I think this started as a genuine trade dispute. I think now it's getting into politics, but it's also getting into personalities of people.
China has a stronger economy, better capabilities of manufacturing, the capacity to also boost domestic trade in times of need, secondary markets that they've set up so that if this uncertainty becomes a reality, where America severs ties with China, that they can at least like restructure their outflowing exports into other places. And yet, for some weird reason, they're like, nah, China is weak as bro. My goddamn Bilibili accounts are popping, dude. American blogger watches Hasan's speed tour. 256,000. 922,000. What the hell's going on, dude? Hasan Lemon Brother? What does that mean? Bro already moved on from us, GG? It means you're jealous? Hasan Lemon Brother. Trump's rednecks envy the iron fist of the University of Tokyo, but they don't know what is behind it? Wait, what is that even? Brother Tiao Mei, I looked at Bilibili and I didn't expect there to be so many Chinese, so many fans of China. I searched for XC Hasanabi speed and I couldn't stop laughing when I saw my good brother's perverted behavior. Yeah, let me tell you something, okay? When I'm posting just for China. American blogger Hasanabi, watching Speed's China trip made me envious and jealous. I want to go to China. They call iShow Speed hyperthyroidism, brother. Brother hyperthyroidism, by the way. Yeah, I don't even know y'all, bro. Y'all are dead to me. Y'all are so dead to me. All of you American watchers, I've found a new market, dude. What the hell is this, Lemon Brother? Oh my God. What does this even mean? What does Lemon Brother mean? Like that I'm jealous? What is hyperthyroidism? I think they mean like he's ADHD.
Well, and how they, and let's just say both China and the U.S. right now, neither is blinking and both are escalating.
The Trump administration has repeatedly said, as have other administrations, that China has used unfair trade practices.
Asmongold? There's Asmongold heads in China? Chinese English. Asmongold TV calling women household items on Facebook is now allowed. Yeah, he don't got no motion in the Chinese markets in the same way that I do. Okay, you see that? He doesn't have motion in the Chinese markets. That's why I'm leaving you guys behind. I'm leaving you guys behind. Marvel competition characters versus the Marvel Avengers game characters. That one got a lot of play. Wait, what? It's actually a racist comment. Hyperthyroidism is extremely prevalent in black communities. Seeing the other racism he's faced in China, I wouldn't be surprised. You think random Chinese netizens are calling him hyperthyroidism because they know that it's extremely prevalent in the black community? Are you insane? No, it's because I suspect that Speed opens up his eyes real wide sometimes, and I think that's what they're referencing. Like he has high energy, and probably because of his reactions in general. I doubt that it's because they know that and are that's a stretch, I think. Or it's probably a mistranslation. Obama. All right. Let's keep going.
Stealing intellectual property rights, etc. We know the score. Do they have a point, and will this redress some of that, do you think, in the future?
Hasan, you're underestimating races that use sickle cell as a slur. Dog. We're talking about Chinese people. They don't know enough about black culture or black people in general to know like well thought out deep lore racism memes. That's my point.
Well, clearly there are valid concerns about not only the openness of the Chinese market, but how can you compete against Chinese companies that are receiving subsidies and all types of financial assistance and assurances from their government? So these issues.
Jiakong J translates to hyperactive bro in English. It's a Chinese internet nickname for Isho Speed, reflecting his energetic personality. Jiakong means hyperthyroidism, but is slang for hyperactive, and Jia means brother or bro. There you go. It's somewhat of a mistranslation. What? I don't think it's because of hyperthyroidism implying that you have bulging eyes. I don't even think it's that. I think it's just that he's hyperactive. Why do Americans try to find racism in anything? The cotton bouquet wasn't racist. Ordering KFC via drone delivery is not racist. And hyperthyroidism refers to his energy because the first meme that blew up of him shouting. Your community got more woke than you? My community is always more woke than me. I yell half the time I'm in here yelling at the people who are more woke than me.
Issues need to be addressed.
And those countries like Indonesia and Vietnam or Cambodia, which were hit with massive tariffs, partly because they were doing some of China's business and then selling it to the US, presumably they live another day, don't they? Or another 90 days.
Yes, but during these 90 days, they are going to be pressured to take a number of steps, including reining in Chinese investment and Chinese trade that's moving through their borders.
And from your experience of dealing with trade issues, do you think this is a lasting reprieve? I mean, what's going to happen after 90 days? Are we back to where we were on Wednesday? I guess you have to be a psychologist more than an economist, right?
90 days right now in this world seems like a long time. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for our negotiators that they can find some solutions with countries, particularly in Asia.
And just briefly, we know that the European Union was planning, a very calibrated response of their own tariffs against the US that hadn't yet kicked in. Presumably, they're part of that reprieve, aren't they?
The way I read it, they are, even though they just announced today some tariffs in response to earlier tariff measures from the Trump administration. So I think they're also given the reprieve. And again, I think the EU and the US can use that time to negotiate.
Wendy Cutler, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, also today, Canada has confirmed that it will impose a 25% retaliatory tariff on certain vehicle imports from the United States. A short time ago, Prime Minister Mark Carney hit out at Mr. Trump, accusing him of rupturing the global economy. Listen.
We've seen the impact of this chaos. Volatility in global financial markets, retirement savings being put at risk. And here in Canada, President Trump's tariffs are threatening Canadian labor and Canadian business. They're putting people's livelihoods in jeopardy.
And I think we should...
I love you. This is just me, but you definitely got rose-colored glasses for China law. I know for a fact you've seen the videos of people giving Speed KFC and that girl straight, saying she's an N-word killer. Let's not act like it's not a major anti-blackness there and that Chinese people are babies. They don't know what they're talking about. No, I literally covered all that here. What are you talking about? I'm not saying that there's no racism in China. What the I'm saying that that's basic levels of racism, okay? That's just like basic ass, what you see is what you get, clear-cut racism. The national nickname for Speed being hyperthyroidism, brother, is probably not some deep lore racist shit, and more so just that he is hyperactive. Jesus Christ. Also, literally everywhere iShowSpeed has gone, there's been insane amounts of racism. That's just the reality of being black, unfortunately, in an otherwise white supremacist world. Like, did you guys not see the way he was treated in like Poland and shit? Yeah, anti-black racism is a universal principle at this point. I didn't say that they were. I never said that like iShowSpeed has experienced zero racism. I'm simply saying the most common way of referring to him is not like some inside baseball national super racist meme, most likely.
Now that we don't really know whether that 25% retaliatory tariff from Canada still applies. Now, joining me here is Mark DePlacido.
Also, China literally likes Speed more than many of the other countries that he's visited. Like, probably likes him the most. Not due to the color of his skin or whatever, but because he is an incredibly successful, incredibly popular American content creator who is cutting through, who's cutting through all of the noise and all of the anti-China propaganda and showing his audience of very young people that China is not the backwards peasant nation, but instead a nation that has actually surpassed the United States in living standards in many instances, especially in the tier 1 cities. Okay, that's it. They love him.
A policy advisor for the conservative economic think tank American Compass. Thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Same question to you. Did Trump blink?
Yes, I think last week what we saw was the president really reset the entire U.S. trade paradigm and as an effect, the world paradigm. And there were sort of 3 core elements to that strategy. There was.
Am I going to cover the Canadian elections when it happens? Didn't it already end at this point? Basically, Donald Trump basically gift wrapped a liberal victory, all but assured it with his actions. And the association that the conservatives had with the American Conservative Party has completely cooked them. Not even close? Really? No, it's evening a bit. The polls I've seen show profound margins for liberals right now.
The 10% global tariff that's still in effect, higher tariff rates on China with the goal of shifting world markets as a whole away from the Chinese market, and reciprocal tariffs. Obviously, the open question is sort of the third leg of that policy. I think we're going to hear a lot over the coming 90 days, reinforcing that idea that Trump is still committed to balance with all of our trade partners and balance overall.
You're crediting him with a kind of a cunning master plan. It sounds like he's making up stuff on the back of a cigarette packet.
I think the president has made clear that the end goal is balance, and that balance can't just be struck between China and the United States anymore. It has to apply to the world. And we saw in the first administration, when the administration really did stick to China, China was able to reach the American market through third countries. So I think we're going to continue to see a lot of pressure on allies and other trade partners to get that balance.
But those third countries like Vietnam and Cambodia, you know, they've got their 90-day reprieve. Those factories making those Chinese goods are still in those countries. What makes you think they won't carry on making Nikes and selling them to you guys?
Well, I think that's the point of the entire policy. The president has been flagging the trade deficit as an issue since the middle of the 80s. He ran against 17 other candidates in 2016 and a handful of other candidates in the last 2 cycles. And the American people and the Republican Party have continued to pick him to lead our economy into a new era. I think he's going to continue to hammer on that balance and set up a new incentive structure in our economy to reshore and bring back industry.
But on that point, the whole idea of this was to give those jobs back to the Rust Belt that had disappeared to China and other countries years ago. That's not going to happen now, is it?
I think it will happen. I think
But
we're
why?
already seeing trillions of dollars of investment into the country, both from domestic.
Why does every young conservative sound exactly the same way? Like, they close your eyes. This is Charlie Kirk speaking. Like, literally.
Companies who have offshored in the past, and trillions. The administration.
Yeah, trillions, totally. You haven't seen it yet, but, you know, I have it on good authority. This is the other thing. It's like Donald Trump is so used to straight up lying, is so used to lying that he just like lies about everything. And people have no way of even demanding the truth. Like, there's nothing that you can get out of him. Or he's just like, yeah, no, they're giving straight up trillions, dude. There's a factory being built in every corner right now. You don't see it, but it's happening.
Is now saying there's up to $7 trillion of pledged investment, and we're going to see increased capacity in the country as a result.
But he's just buckled and decided to give a 90-day reprieve, which means that those jobs that were supposed to go to the Midwest are probably not coming anytime soon. At the end of the day, Donald Trump is going to listen to his rich friends more, is he not?
I think that's a completely unfair characterization. I think that's a completely unfair characterization. No, the president kept a 10% global tariff in place on all of our trade partners, and over 100% tariff on China. He's going to continue to keep pressure on our other trading partners and make very clear to him that he.
Yeah, no, totally. It's so unfair, this characterization. Everything is really good. Donald Trump did not back away from the tariffs.
He is willing to stick out the pain. He stuck it out for a week after $6 trillion disappeared off of our stock index. He's clearly not concerned about Wall Street over Main Street.
But even yesterday he was saying, there's not going to be a...
Also, there is no concern for Main Street. What are we talking about? He is applying a de facto 10% price increase across the board for Main Street. That's what a tariff is. It's a sales tax. It's a regressive sales tax. The notion that he's not actually helping Wall Street but helping Main Street is stupid. No. Yesterday, he was Wall Street and Main Street. Today, he's still Main Street. Main Street is not getting a good bargain out of this. Main Street wasn't even doing well when Wall Street was getting. They were getting too. What are we even talking about?
A reprieve. We're going to carry on with this policy, and today he blinked, he buckled.
And after a week,
the markets at the end of the day is something that he listened.
Like, has anyone in the Trump administration even encountered the question, what do you say to a broad universal sales tax, like a 10% increase in the price of all commodities coming into the United States of America, as the United States of America is still a import economy? Don't you think that will harm the American working class, Main Street, if you will?
No, I think he listens to trade partners who are willing to come to the table and cut a deal. And I think he's going to put pressure on those countries and multinational companies in our country to do what's right for the American people and our economy in the long term.
Some of these countries that were given these extraordinary tariffs, like Cambodia, or Laos, or Lesotho, I mean, they didn't buy your stuff because they simply can't afford it. It's not as if they were putting tariffs on your products. They just can't afford to buy American computers or American cars. Wasn't the punishment of those countries just unfair cruelty?
Well, the other side of the question is what the trade deficit represents, which basically represents Americans consuming $1 trillion more than we're producing. America can't afford to buy these goods year after year at a rate of $1 trillion and sustain that in the long term.
And what happens just finally and briefly with China now? I mean, there's a full-on trade war with China, 125% tariffs from your side versus 84% from their side. Where does this end?
I think China has built its entire economy around securing this trade surplus. And systemically, their economy is much more exposed in this trade war than the United States is. Only 25% of our GDP is represented in trade. Theirs is over 35%. Their economy is on much weaker footing, as the previous guest said. I think America is in a good position, and China is going to blink first.
Lots of blinking going on. Mark DePlacido, thanks very much indeed.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Charles Payne. This is Making Money. Just moments ago, President Trump announced...
Dude, regime press. Song Ming Kim says a spokesperson for Whitmer said she was surprised that she was brought into the Oval Office during President Trump's press conference without any notice of the subject matter. Her presence is not an endorsement of the actions taken or statements made at the event. What the? Why did she go? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, she's just like, oh, they just duped me. They were like, hey, Ms. Whitmer, can you please come into this room? We have something important to show you. And then she just found herself in the room with the president. You don't understand. I tripped and I fell into the Oval Office. I don't know how it happened. I slipped and I fell and I found myself in the Oval.
A 90-day pause. And let's get right to it. Joining me now, Trump's top trade advisor, Peter Navarro. Peter, okay, so we've got 90-day pause. We've got the post from Truth Social behind me, essentially isolating China. The tariffs are going to go higher, but you've got a 90-day pause. We just heard from Scott Bessent. 75-plus countries are trying to negotiate. Walk us through how this decision was made.
Charles, this is one of the greatest days in American economic history we have had. I think we're going to call it the art of the reciprocal trade.
Yeah, that's Ron Vera, POG, the #1 China analyst.
Deal. And I'll tell you, all the nervous Nellies on Wall Street who try to undermine us consistently underestimate the power of the president to negotiate. What have we got here? we are at a place now where we have a broad-based 10% global tariff on. Well, we negotiate over the next 90 days with all of these countries who have come to us. And the mission, Charles, in these negotiations is to dramatically reduce our trade deficit, level the playing field, get rid of all the tariff differentials, get rid of all the non-tariff barriers. Dow 50,000, Charles. I've said this before. It's going to hit that. We're going to have a broad-based recovery in the S&P 500.
Peter,
We're going to pass
let me
a
jump
tax cut
in for a second.
and get us.
Let me jump in
no
for a
recession.
second because you talked about the nervous Nellies on Wall Street, and by the way, I'm in that camp as well. I wasn't nervous, but I understand. But you understand how people felt and all the anxiety and all of the negative news stories. But some are saying it's the market, particularly the bond market, that pushed the White House into this move.
Oh no! We had a great bonds market selling today.
No. Except Trump literally said that. No, I wasn't nervous, but Trump wasn't nervous either. But he did say that was the reason.
Fine with that. The yields look beautifully. We had broad-based participation in that, and it's trust in Trump. I mean, look, this was done in a beautiful negotiation.
The yields looked beautifully
out there. A set of reciprocal tariffs that reflect the crushing trade deficits that we have with these countries. Yeah, I said at the beginning, no negotiation. It's not that. It's a national emergency, but we will listen. And what we heard immediately was beautiful. These countries want to come to us, lower not just their tariffs, but their non-tariff barriers. And as Scott Bessent said just a few moments ago, there's other things that are going to be on the table that are going to help us reduce our debt, reduce our deficits, things like LNG plants in Alaska. So we're going to see a wave of investment here. They're going to invest here. We're going to see them lowering their trade barriers. And here.
Yeah, let's be clear what happened, who capitulated here and why. I don't want to say this because I'm a patriot. I'm an American, but it is the White House who capitulated based on everything I hear and all my sources. It's not China, but it was Japan that was selling a bunch of their bonds.
Well, I mean, because of the mixed messaging, how can you doubt them? I mean, let's be clear what happened. Who capitulated here and why? And I don't want to say this because I'm a patriot. I'm an American. But it is the White House who capitulated based on everything I hear and all my sources. And the reason why is because of the bond market. And
are you allowed to say that on Fox News? Why is the Fox News ticker not green? Fox Business is doing regime press. Fox News, on the other hand, is not doing regime press. I don't like this. I question their loyalty.
What happened last night, Bessent knows this better than anybody.
Ryan Grimm called Musk potentially the world's greatest moron after he invested all of his funds into getting Trump elected and now had his fortune annihilated by Trump.
You have yields on the 10-year rising to 5%.
I mean, Trump probably will cut a side deal for Elon. I would be very shocked. I mean, I know he hates losers, but that would be crazy if he shanked Elon even harder. Because, Elon already knew Trump was anti-renewable energy investment, anti-EV investment. If, on top of that, Donald Trump also just completely, he cooked them. He cooked Tesla. He cooked Tesla so hard. But as Donald Trump has also maintained, he will allow, He will allow the, what is this? Tesla going up. Oh my God. It's so stupid. He will most likely cut side deals with companies that play ball. New on MSNBC, the White House will not release a list of 75 countries that have reached out on trade deals despite requests from NBC News. Yeah, no shit.
Stuff starts shutting down when you have the lending markets screwed up. By the way, who was dumping the bonds? Somebody asked them if it was China, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't. It was Japan. While he was negotiating with Japan, according to my sources, who are running major money management firms that are involved in the bond market without giving up names, Japan was dumping bonds because they believed this was not a great place to do business. That forced their hands. Now, what you can say, I think, legitimately here, is Trump decided to take the win. And here's why. there was overwhelmingly, deal potential here among the entire world, except for maybe China, right? Everybody really wanted something. So he did take the win, but make no mistake about it. Peter Navarro was talking as of yesterday about not taking the win, and now they did. And it's all because of the bond market. I want to point.
Yeah. But Peter Navarro seemingly is happy.
Here's the thing. There's a beautiful analogy President Trump likes to use. It's like each country, it's not going to be like a suit off the rack, right? It's not one size fits all. It's going to be, every deal is going to be tailor-made.
Right.
And we got 90 days to do this. I'm telling you, Charles, this is going to be the biggest boom. And let's not forget, this tariff strategy is embedded in this beautiful, huge other sets of strategies. The tax cut, if the Congress gets that done by August, then this idea that there'll ever be a recession is just silly. I mean, the tax cuts, broadest based, just beautiful tax cuts for the middle class. That alone will help us. And then we've got the oil prices going down. We've got the bond market behaving well now. So it's unfolded exactly the way it should. It's a beautiful thing. And my hat,
but let me just
if I had one, is off to
Peter.
President Trump.
Let me jump in for a second because I want to get the focus on China. Now, when the reciprocal barriers were put out there, a lot of people were curious, like, why such high numbers for Laos and these other countries? To me, it felt like you guys are forming an economic blockade around China so that they couldn't cheat on any potential deals out there. So there's no doubt you're singly focusing on China, and also the notion that somehow they've lost, right? Yesterday, South Korea, even though on Friday we saw the South Korean minister locking arms with China and Japan, they said no, they've rejected China. Is this a wholesale rejection of the rest of the world of China in this negotiation?
Charles, what we saw from the rest of the world ex-China was a willingness, in fact, an eagerness to talk to us in a recognition that they'd been cheating us for years. And they're the ones who cooperate. China has chosen their path. They chose not to negotiate at all with President Donald John Trump. And so we are in this situation. And China, we got the biggest trade deficit with them. Of all the cheating they do the most comprehensive set of cheating. I called it the 7 deadly sins in the first term. It's up to about the 10 deadly sins now. But here's the thing. We got 90 days, and in a very methodical way, we're going to have countries come in. And the previous show where they're talking about best of this, Ludnick that, and like as if there's a riff. We are all on the same page, and it comes from the president. You've got Scotty, you've got Howard, you got Jameson Greer, you got Kevin Hassett, you got the vice president, J.D. Vance, making a beautiful contribution on this, and we're all doing our job for the president, and this is the result. I mean, the tail of the tape today tells you everything.
Peter,
that
I
all
gotta
you
admit,
nervous
though,
Nellies on Wall Street were too nervous. You got to trust in Trump.
I got to admit, though,
Trump.
Peter, that on Friday, I put out a post on X, and I was saying, okay, the commodities markets, you need 3 things. Movement on that big, beautiful tax bill that you just talked about. We'd like to hear some deals, that are coming on. And then I said, more Besant, right? Because it felt like he was more of the architect. And then, of course, the Donnybrook that you've had with Elon Musk. Is today in some way a repudiation of you? Are you taking a back seat and Besant now in the driver's seat?
As I just said, it's the whole team. I mean, we work together beautifully. I mean, Scotty's one of my best friends. We've known each other for years now.
I'm not disputing that you're friends, but I'm just saying with respect to messaging, because yesterday or the day before, you talked about going after these deficits in a way that scared the market. Everyone says, okay, let's get a fair, level playing field, but it felt like you wanted to go further.
Well, I mean, look, no, not at all. No, look. Bannon said this once during the first term. I'm the default strategy. In a way, if they don't want to cooperate, then they get tariffs. Okay? If they cooperate, we talk to them. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. And I'm telling you, look, Charles, if you went behind the scenes and actually sat in on some of these meetings, we got really smart people Each has their own comparative advantage. We all get along. We all have great ideas.
There's no disputing that.
And the
Listen,
president,
Peter, you and I have
the
been friends
president
for a
is the one
decade.
who got.
I thought this was not a hostile interview. I didn't realize it turned sour for Navarro.
It's this whole thing.
And you and I have been friends for a decade, and we've had some Donnybrooks on the air over that time. But the fact of the matter is that it felt like, in many ways, you and also Letnick were mucking up the public relations aspect of this.
Come on, Charles.
All right.
Don't read everything you read. Believe everything you read in the fake news. I mean,
all right, we're gonna have resident expert Nathan Tankis on right now to give us his insight on what these complex trade relationships look like, and what he speculates is the Donald Trump attitude is here. Hold on one second. Hasan Reactions, one of the best ones in the React channel.